We've received quite a bit of interest in my free to be workshop, so to that effect, beneath this video is a link that will give you a description for the workshop, and we've also included a special discount. So if that's something you would be interested in, I would invite you to click that link, and I hope that you would find the course to be quite beneficial. In order to determine the wisest ways to respond to that narcissist or plural narcissists in your life, it's crucial that you understand who they are and what it is that drives them most. Now, if you go into the textbooks and you try to figure out what narcissism consists of, you're going to recognize certain primary ingredients to that pattern. These are individuals who have to have strong control. They have an attitude of entitlement. They're very self-absorbed. They're very self-centered in the way that they engage with you, which means they don't really have a lot of empathy for you because it's all about them. They're attention seekers. They want dominance. They're willing to exploit. They live with what we refer to as alternate reality. In other words, they make up the truth, but in whatever way is going to be expedient for them. But I hope that you can realize that underneath all of that is a fundamental lack of security. Narcissists are pervasively insecure. They struggle with self-esteem greatly. Now, most of them don't have the self-awareness to acknowledge that and to admit it, but it's there, and it goes way deep into their deep history. They've been struggling with that for a long, long time, and they bring that to you as they engage with you. Now, that understood, it's easy to see what it is that bothers a narcissist more than anything else in the world. And it's simply this: they are greatly bothered by being deemed irrelevant. You can have all sorts of opinions about them, but once they figure out that you think that they are irrelevant, that scares them to death. And you'll notice that in the way that they engage with you, they have all sorts of attitudes that are a compensation against that fear of being irrelevant. The narcissist comes at you with the attitude that says, no, I have to be a somebody. I can't imagine that anyone would disagree with me. My opinion is clearly the most important opinion in whatever relationship I'm in. You don't know what you're talking about, but I do, and I'm going to make you pay if you run counter to my preferences or my desires. That's how they operate, but I want you to see beneath that kind of attitude is that fear of being irrelevant. Can you see how that's underlying that and pushing them in those kind of attitudes that I just mentioned? They fear being dismissed as being someone whose opinion is like, so what? Now, this explains many different things. It explains why they interrupt you whenever you try to share your thoughts or your feelings or your interpretations or your opinions. It's like, no, you can't have that. Mine are more important. This explains why they go straight into the anger mode when you don't conform to whatever it is that they have on their mind. This explains why they have a very definitive my way or the highway approach toward relationships. This explains why they find it so easy to be critical and invalidating you. They want to tear you down to build themselves up because they must be important. They have to be relevant. This explains why they're so hungry for affirmation. And they're also hungry for you to comply to them because that gives them the validation that they crave. This explains why they're so easily offended by your separateness or your distinctive or your otherness. They see your being different as a refutation of who they are. It's though when you're different, you're invalidating them. That's how they interpret it. This explains how they can be absurdly defensive and thin-skinned when you're just trying to talk about routine problem-solving things. This explains why they become jealous or envious when you or someone else receives accolades. It's like, no, I want those accolades over here for me. This explains why they're willing to lie and cover up their mistakes and keep secrets. This explains why they ignore your boundaries but then they superimpose their boundaries on you. This explains why they actively look for ways to punish you when you go contrary to them. This explains why they sulk and they become very moody when they don't get their way. All of that I just described is driven by that one fear of being irrelevant. It's like, no, I have to be significant. I have to be known as a very important kind of a person. It's all about their compensation. I must be the most relevant person in the room. Now, I'm hoping that you can see that, and frankly, once you see it, you can hardly unsee it because it becomes glaringly obvious. That said, I'm hoping that as you see their fear of irrelevance is the one thing that bothers them most, it can help shape the way you're going to respond inwardly to those individuals. Now, I want to run some things through by you so that you can understand how you might respond once you're onto this dynamic that's on the inside of them, so that you don't get caught in their snares. You don't necessarily need to say these phrases out loud, but I want to give some voice to some of the ways that you can respond to them when they come at you with this insistence upon being overly relevant. For example, you might think in your mind, no offense, but your fear of irrelevance is not my problem to cure. I know that you have put me in charge of making you feel important. No, that's not an assignment that I'm willing to take on. Your selfishness wears me out. I don't think I'm going to cater to that. Or I know you don't want to hear my thoughts, and my opinions, but I'm going to go ahead and hold on to my thoughts and opinions nonetheless. I know you're carrying lots of psychic pain, but you're not going to admit it. And I'm just going to have to factor that into my responses to you. I can't make that psychic pain go away. I know that you crave for me to listen to you, but then you turn around and you refuse to listen to me. I don't think I want to have a relationship that is that one-dimensional. I want relationships that are reciprocal. I've come to expect your whining, your griping, your carping, your criticisms, but you know what? I'm not going to collapse under those anymore. I know where it's coming from, and I know that it comes from your place of insignificance on the inside. I know that you want me to be your supply and offer you admiration, but how's that going to help when you have nothing on your interior to draw upon? I'd be willing to offer you messages of significance, but your insistence upon being the superior position cancels out that willingness. I can do my fair share on my side of the equation all day long, but I want to know that you and I are going to engage on an equal basis, and I don't think you can do that. You see, the more you realize how they have this deep dread of being irrelevant, and when I say that, I mean it's across the board. Every single narcissist you're going to know is going to have this same one, whether it's the overt, the covert, the look at me, vanity narcissist, or all the different ones in between. They all have this same general feature on the inside. The more you're able to see that, then I'm hoping that you'll realize that you're not going to carry the burdens that they try to put onto you and somehow or another solve their problems for them. There are two essential concepts that narcissists just simply don't get. The first one is this: when you try to force yourself into a position of relevance, to the extent that you are overbearing and domineering, that's the most certain way for it not to happen. You see, over time, when you take that approach, you just become known as a jerk. You become known as someone to avoid. You become known as a malcontent. And many times you actually become known as a joke. Narcissists don't understand that. And then there's a second concept that they don't understand, and that is when you sincerely offer what I refer to as my DRC, dignity, respect, and civility, That's the cleanest way, and that's the clearest path towards becoming relevant. When you lift other individuals up, people want to come back and know more about who you are and why you think the way that you do. But narcissists can't pick up on that one either. So, relevance and significance is a byproduct of uplifting other individuals. But you know what? I don't feel very confident that the narcissist in the room is going to understand that concept in the least. That being the case, my conclusion is this. You, the narcissist, are going to need to look elsewhere for someone who's going to prop you up. I'm not willing to play that role. If you want to be relevant, then go the path of building people up and showing what you want others to live like. That's when I'm going to give you credibility, but in the meantime, I pass. I hope videos such as this give you some good food for thought and some insight into what you're dealing with. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel. We're going to have plenty more videos coming your way, and I'm doing the best that I can to try to help you understand the dynamics of what you're dealing with. If you have a need for counseling, I would encourage you to seek counseling in your area where you live, or if that's not the case, we have an online sponsor that can assist you, and we have a link below for that, and that's become a very popular resource that we have, and so I would encourage you to avail yourself to that if the need would be there. In addition, I have another channel, the Dr. Les Carter channel here on YouTube. Go over there, and I have some topics that are other than beyond just narcissism that I address on that channel. In addition, we have my free to be course. It's very extensive. We have other webinars and more courses coming down the pipe, in the not too distant future. We also have my books and other resources. I'm hoping that you can take advantage of that and learn as fully as you can. Narcissists are deeply insecure. They crave relevance, but they go about trying to address it in such backwards ways that I hope you can say, okay, I see it. That's a problem I can't solve. But in the meantime, I'm going to have my relevance. And my relevance is shown by the fact that I do understand dignity and respect and civility. And that being the case, I'm going to be able to be a person that lives into my own steadiness and peace. That's what we do over here on Team Healthy.